to episode 184 of the Various and Sundry podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who is all in on the Major League Baseball draft, John Scott Sloat.
I don't know about all in. I mean, I'm not watching it.
Like, aren't there like a million rounds? Like,
yeah, 20, 25 rounds, something like that. There's a lot.
yeah, with 30 teams?
Yeah. Yep.
So 20 rounds, 30 teams, that's 600 players.
Yep. Many of them will not
Ever darken the door of the majors.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're just going after flyers at some point.
Yeah.
Filling out rosters.
Yeah. It's such a, well, you know, it's such a contrast to the NFL draft, for example.
Oh, yeah.
But
rare is the person that you pick in the MLB draft that plays in their first year. At the majors.
Oh, yeah.
I think Bryce Harper did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. So, John, what's been going on? We were not in the studio last week. Our episode aired our interview with Brian Rosner.
That's
so
right.
If you haven't checked that out, we encourage you to do so.
That was a great interview.
It was a great interview. Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Did we record the part where he invited us?
Yes,
that was on the record.
On the. I asked my wife.
Great.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh yeah, that was on the pod." Okay, which I think I might have figured out a way to make that happen. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share on the air?
I mean, maybe. I mean, it's so. He was in England, in Cambridge, at the Tyndale House Theology Conference a week ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
does he go every year?
I think he's somewhat regular.
Hmm.
So if we could coordinate,
absolutely,
attending that conference.
Cricket's going on right now.
I mean, could squeeze in a weekend cricket match.
Yeah, a full weekend for one match. Yes.
Right. I mean, they take forever. But did you watch the video I sent you?
I did watch
Cricket for baseball fans, basically? Okay. Did it help make sense?
It made more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in the same place.
The ongoing batting is fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
Well,
the term sticky wickets makes a whole lot more sense now, too.
Yes. So last week, I had some free time, and so I decided, you know what? I'm just going to Google not Google. I went onto YouTube and just searched for, like, cricket matches and full-length cricket matches. So I pull one up. It's Australia against England from, like, 2014 or something. It's 6 hours and 45 minutes.
Goodness.
And the whole thing is on there. Now, I obviously did not watch all of that. I probably watched the first half hour. But I'm fascinated by the bowling. In other words, the equivalent of the pitching.
Yeah.
The running start they get is fascinating. I mean, they get a running start like a huge. It'd be like in baseball terms, it'd be like starting in shallow center field and running to the pitcher's mound and throwing it. And the fact that it's on the bounce.
That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And they're throwing it like, you know, they're showing the little kilometers per hour. So I had to Google, what's the equivalent of
you kept up a conversion calculator right there.
Yeah. So, this guy's throwing like 140 kilometers an hour. That's like 85 miles an hour.
Yeah,
that's moving along.
Now, do they throw sliders?
They have spin on it. So like when it hits the ground, it kicks a certain way as opposed to just, going straight.
Interesting.
But yeah, I'm working on it, Sean.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing else going on in the world of sports, at least that I'm really that interested in at this point. So anyway, if you'd like to reach out to the show and share your love for cricket, you can reach us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsunderpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we would love for you to leave a review and a 5-star rating. All right, John, let's talk some sports. You ready?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
As ready as I'll ever be, I suppose.
So there's not a lot going on.
Well, this is one of the weeks of the year where there's very little sports being played. It is the MLB All-Star break.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, and so that means, the home run derby's tonight? So we record on Mondays. So
Monday, yep. All-Star games tomorrow. They get Wednesday and Thursday off, and then games resume on Friday, I believe.
And that means that the season is a little bit more than halfway.
That's right. It's like a halfway in a week, maybe.
Yeah. And how far out are your beloved Mets?
Division or wild card?
Either.
Division, we're like 18 games out.
The Braves, I understand, are just running away with everything.
Yes, I think in like a span of 30 games, they lost like 3.
Yeah,
that's impressive. They're having a great season. Yes, they're really, really good. As much as it pains me to have a Braves fan underneath me in my building. Our provost is a big Braves fan.
Is he?
Yes, he is.
But he's got Yankees hats and stuff in his office too.
You go talk to him. He's a big baseball fan.
Okay.
But he's a Braves fan.
That's interesting because you've been in his office?
Absolutely, yeah.
I only see Yankee stuff.
Ask him about the Braves.
Okay.
Ask him about the Braves. Ask him about Max Fried pitching, or Greg Maddux or something like that. He loves the Braves.
I'll have to do that.
I think we're 6.5 games out of a wild card.
Okay, so still shouting distance.
We're within striking distance. We had a really good week. We won 6 of 8 games in the last week, so we had a good week.
All right.
Bats came alive. Pitching came through.
Okay.
So mostly a good week.
There you go. Wimbledon is going on. Not that I've followed a single minute of it, but yeah. I think we're like round of 16 now. So it would be next weekend would be the finals.
Still playing on grass.
Yeah. I didn't get a chance. That would be if I go back when I go back to the London area. That'd be something I wouldn't mind seeing. Wimbledon. Yeah. Why not?
I don't know. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah. And let's see.
Can I say one more thing about tennis? It feels like we're missing a great male American tennis player.
Oh, for sure.
When was the last one? Sampras?
Probably.
And I remember tennis being on at my house growing up when Sampras was incredible.
Yeah.
But since then, I don't think we've had anybody. It's been really dominated by Europeans.
Yes. Well, I mean, Federer and then Djokovic. Djokovic, yeah.
So, yeah, it feels like for me to care, I need an American.
Yeah. Now, on the women's side, the Williams sisters have
dominated.
Though
Absolutely.
That's basically come to an end, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, I used to, when I was younger, I paid more attention to tennis, Wimbledon in particular, but not anymore. One story that has hit my radar is there's been a bit of a kerfluffle in the college football world with Northwestern. Have you seen any of these stories?
I'm aware that something's happened at Northwestern. I believe it's hazing.
Yes.
But I don't know particulars. I did see one article that Darren Ravel on Twitter,
a Northwestern alum,
took a shot at ESPN over a headline where it said the headline was "Coach absolutely knew," and then in the article it made it clear that if he didn't know, then XYZ. Which was it? Is it a possibility he didn't know, or is it absolutely certain he did know?
Yes, and it was quoting an anonymous source, which was also something he was a little
That's right.
about.
That's right.
But whatever. There's a portion of his tweets that I try to ignore. Like when he talks about like the business end of sports, I really enjoy following him. But when he moves into politics and some of the other stuff that he's into, I just scroll right past. But anyway, the controversy is basically there are allegations of hazing that took place on the Northwestern football team.
What level of hazing are we talking about? I mean, I don't want to get into particulars if it gets really gruesome or terrible, but like is this they woke up guys in the middle of the night and caused them to go jump in a lake? Or
No,
is
it's
it a little
beyond
bit
that.
more intense
It's
than
more
that?
intense than
Okay.
that, and I don't know that I can really describe
On this family-friendly?
on this family-friendly program what's
Well, that probably
what's
tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. So the initial response was the president of the university suspended him 2 weeks, Pat Fitzgerald, 2 weeks with no pay.
Okay.
As stuff has come out, though, he said something like, well, we may have to reevaluate that in light of further evidence or whatever. So it could easily result in him losing his job. So we'll see, which, there's never a good time to lose your job for a football program, but mid-July
It's pretty rough.
is pretty rough. I mean, you'd have to turn it over. But see, here's the thing. You normally then would say, let's turn it over to one of the assistants. But if it's an internal problem and everybody knew it was going on, how do you turn it over to an
Yeah,
assistant?
they're complicit probably.
Yeah, I don't know what you do there. Anyway, it's a bit of a hot mess there.
And how is Northwestern's known as a sports media sort of hub? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
How are their alumni covering this?
I haven't seen a lot on that. I think,
Because Mike Greenberg would have been there, right?
yep. I don't know if they're just sort of flying under the radar, waiting to see what happens or what. But, fascinated to see how that ends up developing. But
I think I'd care more if Northwestern was going to be a top 10 team in the country
Sure.
or be relevant in the Big Ten.
yeah, absolutely.
But they're just most likely not going to be.
Yeah, though, I mean, they play in the West Division of the Big Ten, which is,
The soft division?
oh gosh, so much weaker than the East. They made the Big Ten championship game 2 years ago. I think they've made it like twice in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years. But it's in the West,
Yeah.
So all the really strong teams are in the East: Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
Sure.
All three of those teams are better than anybody in the West. on a
Purdue? Where
consistent
does Purdue sit? Are
They're in the West,
they in the West?
but they're not as good.
Iowa,
No.
Minnesota,
Nah. Wisconsin's in there.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
They have a new coach this year. Luke Fickell.
Really?
Yeah.
Luke's up there.
Yes. Went from Cincinnati to Wisconsin.
Oh.
Former Ohio State great, obviously. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. But all right. We should move on, John. Our topic for today is an article by someone that John Sloat has a little bit of a man crush on.
I wouldn't say that.
You love you some Ryan Burge.
I enjoy some of his articles. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I started following him on Twitter a few years ago, and he was just pumping out graphs on Twitter about religion. And so that was pretty interesting. He'd have some commentary here and there. And now he started a Substack. I don't know when that started. I just found out about it maybe a month ago. And so I am not paying for every journalist Substack that is out there. I'm just not going to do it as a rule. And so I just sign up for the free ones. So I get the free ones from him. And this was one of the free ones
Yeah.
that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. So the article is entitled, "How Many People Leave Their Childhood Religion?" And so, there's a lot of interesting stats and takeaways from this. Part of the way he kind of frames it is you hear a lot of kind of hand-wringing in evangelical circles about all these people leaving the church after they grow up in the church and then they walk away from the church.
Yep.
And the surprising kind of finding, at least from the data that he puts forward, is that doesn't really happen much. Or it's not happening any more than it was happening 50 years ago.
Or the rate isn't nearly as aggressive as people make it out to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll link to the article in the show notes. But, I figured we'd start with maybe some initial takeaways. He begins the article it's based on what he calls the General Social Survey, which I'm not familiar with. But it's been something that's been done annually since 1973. And they've been asking the question, in what religion were you raised? And then what religion do you identify as now? And so, that's to have essentially 50 years of data.
That's great.
Is something that makes it a lot easier to draw, I think, meaningful conclusions about trends. So he kind of starts with general big picture, Protestant, Catholic, and then no religion as the sort of starting point. And so let's see here. Let's start with the Catholics. He says, let's see. In the 1970s and 1980s, switching was pretty rare. Nearly 85% of folks who were raised Catholic were still a member of that faith group when they were interviewed. So, in essence, 85% retention rate in the 70s and 80s. Then for Protestants, it was 90%. Now, what was a little unclear to me was, does that allow for switches within Protestantism? So if you switch from being a Methodist to a Baptist, or from a Baptist to a Presbyterian or something like that.
Well, or even evangelical to mainline, or mainline to evangelical. Even thinking in a bigger picture like that.
Yes. And then the so-called nuns, as in those raised in no faith tradition, 2/3. Did I have that right here?
Well, in the 1970s, it was more like 35%. Quite frankly, because I think most other people had a religion at that point, and very few were raised in a non-religious area. But today, it's closer to probably like 65, getting close, 64%, something like that. I'm looking at a line graph here. That's why I don't have these precise numbers. But while we do see a downward trend among Catholics and Protestants, it's not nearly as aggressive as you think. What is aggressive is the rise of the nuns, the rise of the no religion whatsoever. How, when you think of that category of the nuns or the no religion, how do you what's your thought that comes to mind? Like, who are these people? What are they about?
Well, again, this is all predicated on self-identification. So a person being surveyed and asked, what religion are you? Okay. So I want to qualify what I say with that, just saying, okay, some people might claim a certain designation that we would go, I don't think that's right. Like, that's what you think you are, but like the way you live and what you believe doesn't line up with what that label should indicate.
Sure.
But it seems to me that when I think of the nuns, I think of people in urban areas who probably were not raised in any sort of faith tradition, and that our secular society has gotten to a point where in large parts of, at least in many urban areas of the country, it used to be that if you weren't affiliated with a specific church in some way, it was probably a detriment to you in some contexts, right? If someone asked you, where do you go to church? And you said, I don't, there was this perception of, oh, people are going to think negatively of me 40, 50 years ago. Now that I think there's a lot more context in our country where if someone asks you, where do you go to church? And you say none, that there's no that one, people would even be maybe surprised by the question. Like, what do you mean where do I go to church?
Yeah.
Like, why are you asking me that? That seems like a weird question. So that to me seems more – that's what I think of when I think of the so-called nuns. What about you?
I think I generally just think of apathetic people who I just think don't care. Don't want to think about it, don't want to engage with it, don't want to think about meaning in life or afterlife or anything like that. I just don't think they necessarily care.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think part of it reflects the cultural shift that it's become more and more plausible to be able to conceive of and construct a life that has no religion in it whatsoever and not feel any lack or feel like you're missing out on anything.
Yeah.
That's become more plausible, more normal, for lack of a better word, in certain parts of the country. Now, what's tricky to me is I wonder how much difference there is between the sort of, in my mind, the stereotypical nun living in downtown Manhattan versus the apathetic, like barely connected, really not connected to any church in a rural area, but when asked would say, well, I'm a Christian or I'm a Methodist.
Yeah.
And by that they mean, well, my parents went to the Methodist church.
Yeah.
But I haven't darkened the door of any church in 40 years.
Yeah.
And I don't read my Bible, and I don't think about spiritual things at all, but I'm a Methodist.
I can't remember if it was Ryan Burge, if it was somebody else, but there is a contingent of people who call themselves evangelical who never or rarely go to church.
Yeah.
And that, when I think of an evangelical, that feels like the lowest bar to clear, right?
Regular church attendance?
Even occasional church attendance or monthly church attendance, but rarely or never. That strikes me as, no, you're not really evangelical.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the Princess Bride. You keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. You use that word evangelical, but you can't even tell me what the gospel is.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's dig in a little bit more here in terms of. I think probably the most interesting chart in here is he breaks down. So people who between adolescence and adulthood, he lines up the answer. So, for example, 73% of people who identified as evangelicals as adolescents, still as adults, identify as evangelicals.
So 3/4, basically.
Roughly 3/4. What's interesting, though, is where the people who don't anymore, where do they go? And where do they go, John?
Well, it seems like who are no longer evangelicals.
Correct.
Where do they go? They most likely go to the none, no religion category. Yeah. That seems to be where they go the most.
Yes. And so I wonder if that's part of the perception gap. That 40 years ago, if somebody was no longer an evangelical, maybe that means they went to maybe at that point they did switch to mainline. Or maybe they switched to Catholic or, some other form of religion. Now they end up being nuns.
That's right.
And so I wonder if that's part of what fuels the perception of, oh my gosh, people are leaving the church and this has never happened before like this. Well, in terms of the data, it seems like, well, no, about the same number are leaving the church, the evangelical church. The difference seems to be that instead of going to some other religious tradition, they just go to none.
Yeah.
Does that seem fair to you as you look at that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just to tick it off, people who were raised evangelical, mainline churches is 8%. That's the second highest.
Yeah.
1% Black Protestant, 3% Catholic, 0% are going to Jewish communities of faith, 3% other faiths, and 13% no religion. That's the largest one for sure. But that's still not jumping off the page necessarily as a huge, big number. I think one of the more encouraging aspects of this list, and maybe you were going with this, is it seems like if somebody's leaving one of these other traditions, take the nuns out of there, because that's, they talk about retention rate for nuns. They're not retaining. They're not they're not recruiting.
Right.
They're anyway. But people are going to evangelical churches over way over any other faith group that's listed here.
Yes.
So something like 14% of people that were raised mainline end up evangelicals. Black Protestant 9%, Catholic 9%, nuns 16%. That's very encouraging that there are people going from those other categories to evangelicalism.
I wonder if the perception that so many more people are leaving the evangelical church compared to how it was 40 years ago is fueled by social media and how you have these some prominent people who make a big stink as they run out the door.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that helps fuel the perception that this is some unprecedented exodus out of the evangelical church. Do you think?
I think there is a small, very vocal but small movement of people who are deconstructing. In fact, it led one former evangelical leader to create deconstruction kits. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Was that 2 summers ago now?
Yeah, maybe.
He got a lot of backlash for that.
Yeah.
Trying to make money off this. Anyway.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, I think that we're perhaps just more aware of it than we were before.
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, social media presents a distorted picture of reality.
Mm-hmm.
That if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you can see a lot of noise about something and draw a conclusion that, oh my gosh, there's this huge portion of our population that is doing or into fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
When that's not the case. It's just that there's a significant portion of those who use social media who tend to be basically under 50, especially Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah,
Facebook is now skewing much older.
Much older. What's the I can't remember the exact statistic, but directionally this is right. That it's something like 20% of society is on Twitter. 3% of that 20% actually tweet regularly.
Yeah.
And just how
But it skews perception.
It does. It absolutely does skew perception. By the way, why did Twitter limit the number of posts you can look at in a day? Did you see that?
I did, but it was because they were under some sort of cyber attack.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah. They were under some sort of cyber attack where someone was doing something to their servers that that basically it's a defense mechanism to try to prevent them from crashing the site.
And in the midst of that, just as they make this announcement, Facebook comes out with its own Twitter-like group. Are you on Threads?
No.
I'm not on Threads either.
I don't need another social media. I'm basically on Facebook and Twitter. I have Instagram. I barely use it.
No, I got rid of Instagram a few years ago now.
Barely use it. I don't need another social media platform. Okay, so we've kind of dug into some of the data. There's a lot more data in there. We'll post the link on the show notes. But, okay, let's put on our sort of ministry leadership hats here and say, even if we look at the article and go, okay, so this is not some unprecedented thing. Basically, the percentages are about the same as they were 40, 50 years ago. Nonetheless, as ministry leaders, I think it's always good to look at that and figure out why do we think people are leaving?
Mm-hmm.
And are there specific things we can and should do to help prevent that? So I'll let you take any of those angles.
I mean, there's part of me that goes, I don't know always how helpful it is to know this information.
Mm-hmm.
I think, local church ministry is about preaching the gospel, getting people connected to one another, and living life to a certain extent. And if you have people that have deep ties and are deeply connected to the people in your local congregation and in your church, I just think when people have those thick relationships, they're just not going to leave very easily.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
And so, in one sense, my advice is ignore the article in general and focus on building relationship with your people and bringing them together.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't disagree with that. I do think that it is striking that the number one destination ends up being the nuns.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, what that seems to indicate is that that there's just sort of a giving up on God in general.
Mm-hmm.
And not like, oh, well, gosh, I was at a church and it was too Calvinistic, so I found a more Arminian church and I love it. That's not what's happening, Or, well, I mean, and this is, I guess, I'd be curious to see this. I mean, it doesn't show up in the data here, but there's a perception that there's some movement out of evangelicalism into like Episcopalian churches or Anglican churches, or even Greek Orthodox kind of churches, because there's an attraction to the structure and the liturgy and the full sensory experience and all that kind of stuff. But here's what I would stress. I wonder if part of the issue is that when people leave and end up in the nuns category, if part of the issue is, and this is I think potentially a legitimate criticism that comes from different parts of the church and outside the church, is that too much emphasis is placed on what we're against and not enough on what we're for. Now, that could be misused because I've heard people say that in certain contexts. I'm like, that's a cop-out. Mm-hmm. You just don't like what we're for either. But, when you think about the big cultural issues, especially in the area of sexuality, if all a congregation hears is that homosexuality is sinful, transgender stuff is sinful, and it's just that, and there's no positive construction of a biblical view of sexuality, not just stay away from that, that's bad, but here is a holistic understanding of sexuality and why it's good the way God has designed it, and how it's bad when you step outside of God's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Or even on other issues. Sometimes I wonder if we don't do a good enough job of providing a holistic picture of the Bible's teaching on a certain area. And so when the culture comes along and just bombards you with, you're a bunch of bigots, you don't love. Love is love. Come on. How can you not love people? That's like the first thing you Christians are supposed to do is to love people. If you don't have a robust sort of full understanding of, well, first of all, let's talk about what the nature of love is according to Scripture. Let's talk about what sexuality is according to Scripture. That you can see how those can have that can have a sort of appeal to a certain crowd. It's like, I'm just tired of being browbeaten and being considered a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be part of the bigot group. I think I'm a decent person. I know somebody who's trans or homosexual, and they seem like a great person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be associated with people that our culture thinks are bigots, so I'm out. I'm done. I think there's a dynamic there. I'm not saying it explains everything, but I think that's one portion of the explanation. What do you think?
Yes, I think I agree with you that there's. I think that's probably part of it, that we're not. We're constantly saying what we're against, not necessarily what we're for, and I think a positive vision of things like giving people a vision of positive sexuality would be really good. You know that sex inside of marriage is for the building of community and for the building of deep relationships and for to re-up that covenant. Yeah, I think there's something about that that's really desirable. However, I don't think that's all that. Although I'm trying to come up with another one, and I can't come up with one right now about why. I mean, I think part of it is I think we're just always going to have some measure of people leaving the church at some level. Even back to the wonders of the 1970s, we were just a couple of percentage points better than we are today at retaining people.
Yep. I think part of me too wonders if I think the sort of consumerism perspective, the consumer mindset has been infiltrating the church for many years now. But now, it used to be if you lived in a community, depending on the size, you might have had an option of 3, 5, 10, 12, 15 churches.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't matter. You can just go online if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Find your favorite guru. Sit down on Sunday morning, if you want to do it on Sunday morning, or you can do it Thursday night or Tuesday afternoon after work or in the car on the way home on Friday, like whenever you want. And it's become a sort of a la carte spirituality approach that eventually, because there's no cohesion and community, it just falls apart. You're just like, what am I doing? Why am I hanging on to this?
I do think that is a problem with the like a better word, flashy evangelicalism. That it is not very good at creating that thickness, that cohesive community that's gonna stick together through difficult times.
Yeah, I think so. And
it's easy to leave.
It is.
It's easy to walk away.
It is.
Because it could be 6-8 months before somebody follows up with you.
Sure. And let's be honest, being in community, doing it biblically, it takes effort.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
It takes time and energy and effort and can be messy. It can be challenging. And, it can put you in situations where you have to be around people that you're not naturally drawn to. And might get on your nerves. And that if they weren't a fellow Christian and you weren't a fellow Christian, you probably would never go out of your way to want to be around them.
Yeah.
But God's put them in your body of believers. And so there is an obligation to love and to bear with. And some people are like, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. That doesn't meet my needs because it's all about me getting what I need or what I want out of the experience.
I'll never forget sitting down with a college student who was in a small group at his church. And he was just like, I don't think I'm going to go anymore. So why is that? He goes, the guy who leads my group has so many kids. And they're just crazy and insane and running all over the place. And I kind of went, you want to know what? I actually think that's probably pretty good for you. Yeah. It's good for you to be a part of that, and it's good for you to see that, and it's good for you to work through that. And by the end of 3 months down the line, he was loving it. He was loving being a part of that group. What once used to upset him, actually helped him form relationship with these people.
Yeah,
and that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, like we said, we'll put the link to the article on the show notes, but we have got to move on to this day in sports history.
Okay, this day in sports history, July 11th, 2023. Where's the time going?
School year will be here before you know it. That was
by the way, July 11th, Amazon Prime deal days.
Yeah, today in terms of when this drops.
Yeah, the 11th and the 12th.
Yeah. You got something lined up that you ready to pull the trigger on?
We'll see. We'll see what Amazon decides to put out there for the masses. But I'm sure I'll get something.
Yeah.
I don't know what. But I like a deal.
I know you do.
I like a good deal.
I'm looking to probably replace my robot vacuum that I've had for about 5 years. It's about time. But I might wait till Black Friday instead.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right. Well, this day in sports history, July 11th, 1930, 21-year-old Australian cricket super batsman, sounds like a superhero, Don Bradman, is 105 at lunch, 220 at tea, and 309 at stumps. On the first day in the third test versus England at Leeds. Goes to 334.
I just had to chuckle at here's a sport that it sounds like at one point you had definitive breaks for, well, okay, we're going to break for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to break for tea in the afternoon. And then I don't know what stumps represents at the end there. Dinner time, I don't know.
Dinner time, closing down.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could have just been the sun going behind.
I mean, talk about a gentleman's sport, right? Like, well, I mean, we have to stop for lunch. And we're not proper, respectable gentlemen if we don't stop for tea.
Yeah. For the queen. Yeah. Although there is no queen anymore. 1985, Astros, Nolan Ryan. This is a sport I know. First to strike out 4,000. Mets, Danny Heap. He struck out a Met.
Yeah.
That's fun.
4,000 strikeouts.
Now, just to be clear, the 4,000 strikeouts were not just of Danny Heap.
No.
There was a number of people.
No.
Danny Heap was the 4,000th.
Yes. There were 3,999 before him.
Of which Danny Heap
could have
been in there a few times. Yeah. 1990, the New York City police arrest Dartman. Who's Dartman?
I don't know.
Stabbed over 50 women with darts. Why is this a sports story?
I guess it's the darts connection. I don't know. I mean, Dartman.
Dartman. All right. 2010 FIFA World Cup final. Soccer City, Johannesburg, South Africa. Andres Iniesta scores an extra time winner at Spain, beat the Netherlands 1-0 for the first World Cup title.
There you go.
2021 Wimbledon men's tennis. Djokovic claims a record equaling 20th Grand Slam title. Beats Matteo Berrettini. I think I got that right.
That's right, yeah.
Of Italy, 6-7, 6-4, 6-4, 6-3.
Okay.
A few good names in there today.
Yeah, I tried.
Who do you like out of this impressive list? Feels like we've named Nolan Ryan a few times.
I know. I love Nolan Ryan. I'm very much impressed by him, but I feel like we've mentioned him enough times where we got to go somewhere else.
What about Dartman? The is a serial killer? No, he just stabbed women with.
Stab them. It doesn't.
Is this our version of Jack the Ripper?
With darts.
With darts.
Yeah.
And was it a close contact stab or was he at a distance? Because it feels like something you could get 10, 12 yards away and hit somebody with a dart.
Yeah, I would think so. I don't know. I was going to go with either that or maybe Andre Iniesta, or Djokovic. I don't know. You want to go with Dartman?
Let's go Dartman. We don't have a name, but it feels like there's never been another podcast named Dartman. So
I'm pretty confident about that.
Not for us, at least. But
yeah. One thing you liked.
All right. So this last week, so I got a new cell phone a couple months ago now, and was repeatedly badgered by Apple to sign up for their 3 free months of Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
I finally did it, and I've been watching Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
And we are loving Ted Lasso. Now, all the caveats about content warning and all those
100%.
things, but we have been loving Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
First season was definitely the best.
Yeah, we're in season 3 right now, and we've not been impressed with season 3.
Season 3, we're right in the middle of season 3, and it has not been the best.
Season 1 was amazing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So okay, nice. I'm going to go with Air.
Is this
not the stuff that you breathe, but the movie?
But you're a fan of the stuff.
I am very pro Air.
Yeah.
But the Matt Damon and Ben Affleck film Air, which tells the story of how Nike signed Michael Jordan. It's on Amazon Prime.
I did see that this came out.
It's good.
Yeah.
And part of what makes it good is there's certainly a nostalgia effect. Having grown up in the 80s, there's a lot of nostalgia in there. But it's not overdone. And, it's I think Matt Damon does a good job in the film. And one of the interesting things about the movie is they never show Michael.
I heard this, yeah.
Like, they have an actor portray him, but you never see his face. You only see him like from behind. Like now they showed real footage of him playing basketball. So that's how you saw Michael. But you never saw an actor actually portraying Michael from the face, always from the back.
And who does Matt Damon play? Is it Sonny?
Yes. He's the guy that actually ends up signing Jordan.
And his mom, Michael Jordan's mom, features prominently.
Yes.
Played by is Viola Davis?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yep.
I've heard good things. I have not seen it.
Yeah, I was a little underwhelmed with Ben Affleck as Phil Knight, the head of Nike.
Well, I think anything Ben Affleck's in is underwhelming, generally speaking.
Yes.
Yeah. I just generally I go like, oh, that could have been better with somebody else.
Yes. I'm very underwhelmed. Like I think he was. I think, like in Good Will Hunting, I think he was good.
Okay, I haven't seen Good Will Hunting.
And then in the movie Gone Girl, you ever see that?
Yes, I did. That was a creepy movie.
Very creepy. I think he's pretty good in that.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Now, I've never seen a Ben Affleck movie where I'm like, nobody could have done it better than him in that role.
I think that's fair.
I think he was a terrible Batman.
Yeah, he wasn't great as Batman.
Yeah, I'm continually underwhelmed by him in acting.
He did a Daredevil movie where he played the superhero Daredevil back in the early 2000s, and that flopped. It was bad.
Yeah,
real bad.
Yeah, but anyway,
he's a better meme than an actor. That meme of him smoking a cigarette.
Yeah,
that's classic. Peak Ben Affleck right there.
I think the movie Air is definitely worth watching. A little bit of language, but it is fascinating. And from what I understand, Michael Jordan was very involved. He's the one that insisted that the actress who played his mom actually play. Like he's like, I want her to play my mom. So, and it was fascinating. I think, like she ran that family. For as much as there was talk about Jordan's relationship with his dad, and part of that was, of course, his dad being murdered.
Yeah.
But man, she ran that family, and she was a savvy businesswoman.
Because what, he gets 5% of every shoe that sells or something like that?
And he was the first one to get that. Like basically, she said, we'll sign with you, Nike, but this is a non-negotiable. Michael has to get a portion of every shoe that's sold. And they're like, nobody gets that. Well, if you want Michael, that's what it's going to take. And I saw like even today, he's getting some absurd amount of money because the Air Jordan line still sells like hotcakes.
Well, I think it's, forgive me for saying this, the Michigan football team, their jerseys are all Air Jordans.
Yes.
Right? Right? They have
the Jordan logo on it, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine he's getting a piece of that action.
I got to think so. Yeah. I mean, the kind of money he's making.
And he's selling the Bobcats, or not the Bobcats. Is it the Hornets now?
Charlotte. Yeah.
When he bought it, they were the Bobcats, though.
Are they?
They're the Hornets now.
Yes.
Because New Orleans gave up Hornets.
Yes.
But he's selling that. He's going to be rolling in dough.
Yeah. And what's he going to do with his time?
I don't know. Smoke, drink. I mean, I think that's all
Gamble.
he does. He's a big Bejeweled player, from what I understand. I think he's number 3 in the world at Bejeweled.
Probably drives him nuts that he's number 3 and not number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably does. We need to get off the air.
Yep. We have talked sports that we're not that interested in. We have talked about why people are leaving their childhood religion. We have talked about Dartman.
Dartman.
Dartman. We have talked about Ted Lasso. We have talked about the movie Air. And so I think by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.